This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the generative AI assistant that can securely understand your business data, summarize results, and streamline tasks. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
To be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
Specializing in metal parts, machining, and fabrication since 1960, Girding Enterprises has excelled in the machining process. A truly American company, Girding Enterprises has gone from one-man shop in a basement to a world-class machine shop with over 20 employees. We strive to uphold the highest level of quality while constantly improving our efficiency level in order to offer the most affordable prices to our customers. Visit us online at girdingent.com or give us a call at 636-274-9802.
In October 2019, Arlington, Texas was chosen to be the home of a new national museum, unlike any other. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a unique home of military history. The 100,000 square foot museum will house exhibits, archives, and artifacts relating to the 3,500 U.S. troops who have been awarded the medal, the nation's highest honor for valor in combat. The museum will have 31,000 square feet of galleries dedicated to U.S. troops who have received the award. The museum CEO, former Navy SEAL and NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, said the museum will focus on education as much as preservation. The building will have 5 areas dedicated to Medal of Honor winners from the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. The main gallery will be located in a central plaza under a 25,000 square foot slab of steel, which will appear to be suspended in midair. It will be supported by 5 pillars. Black Rifle Coffee is a corporate sponsor of the museum, as are the Dallas Cowboys. The museum's board also includes over a dozen major corporations and 6 Medal of Honor recipients, including David Bellavia, Patrick Brady, and Britt Slabinski. Army Staff Sergeant Bellavia was awarded the medal for clearing an entire house by himself on November 10, 2004, as a squad leader in support of Operation Phantom Fury in Fallujah, Iraq. He killed 4 enemy fighters and wounded a 5th in close quarters battle. Army Major General Brady flew and coordinated the evacuation of 51 seriously wounded men during a firefight in Vietnam in January 1968. Slabinski, a Navy SEAL chief and team leader, led a rescue team of SEALs during Operation Anaconda in Afghanistan in March 2002. Slabinski and his team flew to a mountaintop ambush site to rescue Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts, who had fallen from the back of a helicopter. Slabinski led the team through almost constant combat against an entrenched Taliban force. Along with the board members, former presidents Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama serve as honorary directors. The museum is expected to open to the public in late 2024.
All right. Welcome back. MisFitNation. We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their story to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with MisFitNation. If you're a musician or actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share some of your tips with the MisFitNation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you're a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and share how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and just share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or are embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you're a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast apps and also on our YouTube channel at _Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date with our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show. All right, welcome back, y'all. It's been 2 weeks of pre-record hell on Misfit Nation due to our day gig, keeping us on the road, and also going to Congress to speak on Veterans Affairs. But man, we're back tonight. To all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. To my dad, the torch. You were the biggest influence in all of our lives. Thanks for all you have done and continue to do for us, as you still mentor us whenever we speak. Happy Father's Day, Dad. As we tell you in the intro, you are not alone. If you need to talk to someone, they will listen to keep you here. Today, the Misfit Nation was informed of the loss of another warrior. He lost his battle with the demons and is on the other side now. Command Sergeant Major Paul Barton was an EOD legend, a leader, intelligent. He worked in the field for well over 20 years and still worked in it as a civilian after he retired. He just retired a few years ago. He leaves behind loved ones and a long trail of those he has mentored. Command Sergeant Major Barton, you will be missed, and we will see you. Till Valhalla, brother. Now, our next guest swapped military marches for marketing metrics as an Army veteran turned CEO of Lean Labs. They are the mechanics under the hood of B2B tech and SaaS companies turbocharging their websites and marketing strategies. So without further ado, let's welcome Army veteran Chris Dubois to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Chris. How you doing?
Hey, good. How's it going, Rich?
Good. I'm glad you got on. I'm starting to work
last minute.
Yeah, nothing like bringing it in at the last tail. That's good. Yep. But I gave a little bit about you right there. Happy Father's Day if you are a dad, Chris.
Yeah, you too.
I gave a little bit about you, basically a 2-sentence blurb about you there. If you don't mind, jump in there and tell the Misfit Nation a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. Pulling from that small bio. So, Army veteran, spent 7 years active duty. I am now in the Army Reserves. I've been there for 4+ years, major now. When I came out, started working at a marketing agency, worked my way up as a marketer, got up to CEO of the company, and just recently I've started doing a lot more leadership coaching. So,
outstanding. Yeah, so you continue to serve. I was just with the reserves in California for a big exercise out there at beautiful Fort Hunter Liggett for the last 9 days almost. It was a beautiful time out there with the reserves, watching them go get the reserve rust off them, rust off and become soldiers again. It's funny watching it happen and watching them actually become soldiers as they go through the week. But I'm sure you see it every month, and then of course on your routines.
Every battle assembly.
Yes. Yeah. That's one thing I told them too. I said, I know you guys don't have a lot of time, especially battle assembly. By the time you get going, it's time to go home on Sunday and start to think about it again for the next month. So that's all you guys do the reserves. It's a lot harder than the active duty.
Well, and that's the crazy thing. So the unit that I'm in now is the 1st of the 304th. We're a drill sergeant unit, right? So we have drill sergeants. They supplement the active duty locations through the summer. And a couple of years ago, I'd gone down to Fort Jackson, met with our counterparts who we're going to be supporting, and they were talking like, oh, so you guys can like handle this by next month or whatever. And it's like, man, this event is in 6 months, and we're only going to meet for 12 days before. Like we have 12 working days, to figure this out, and like they just kind of don't don't notice that part. Like, it is hard to get everything together, but yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard to grasp that from if you've never done both sides, like you have done both sides. So you've seen the fast pace of active, and then probably tried to do the same thing when you went to the reserves, and that wall kind of smacked you and said, "Whoa,
yeah,
ease up, boy, ease up, come back to reality and do it our way."
Yep.
So now you're on the outside. But you wear two hats now. So you have your own business. And did you always want to start this business, or was this just something that kicked in while you were serving?
The leadership consulting has, man. So when I was a platoon leader, right, awesome time. One of the best times you can have as an officer in the military. But I did really well. I got pulled up to be the battalion adjutant. I feel it was a punishment. Battalion commander said it wasn't, and he just wanted me to continue working with him so we can kind of keep building me up. So I went from having just perspective of my platoon to having the entire battalion, and now it's like, whoa, I'm seeing things from a different angle. And I started realizing there were leaders who were doing awesome no matter where they went. They were just crushing it. And then we had other leaders who were not crushing it even in the first place. And so I was taking notes. What are they doing that's different? As I went on through my career, doing the same thing. Now, even with like corporate America, like I'm seeing it happen, but I realized that for some reason people think that if you have a leadership style, you can just show up and that's your style, put it in play. People are going to do what you want them to do, rather than showing up and having everybody else kind of, show you what they need. And then you shape yourself in order to be that best leader for them. So that situation's always going to be different, right? The team's always going to be different. And so, yeah, starting when I was in the Army, it's like, man, I could go show people this one lesson and it would help them substantially. And so now I'm just doing that on a much larger spectrum. And so
much larger scale now. Yes.
Yeah.
You talked about dynamic leadership. Explain to the audience what dynamic leadership actually is.
Yeah. So it basically what I was just getting after, where it's the idea that every situation you're in is going to be different. You're never going to walk into a team that's the exact same as another team, right? Because it's full of individuals. Those individuals are going to act differently with other individuals. And so you have to look at the team. There's just so many different facets of like variables that you need to be able to take into consideration. And so showing up, believing that you have that one true method of leadership and that's going to solve all of the problems. It's never going to play out the way you actually want it to. And so through dynamic leadership, we basically train adaptability, the ability to come in, to build awareness, to know how to use communication, how to build trust, so you can establish this culture, within your organization that actually helps you achieve your goals. And you're going to show up and you're going to be the leader that is actually necessary for that specific time, that specific place, that specific mission. And now you're actually able to show up and execute. And so.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's something we learned. I learned in the military is that you can't do the same thing with the whole platoon. You can't do the same thing when you're a squad leader for every person in the squad. It doesn't work. No two people are the same.
Right.
It's if you don't adjust, you get adjusted basically, and you wind up pushed out the door. You wind up finding another way in life, either being a warrant officer where you don't have to lead or do something else.
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, and you see some people who say like, when they're a staff sergeant running a squad, they take those same exact lessons and they become a first sergeant and they're running a company as if it was a squad. But it's like, you can't do that. You got to have more, like, you can't control everything. You have to have more of the command presence and like give guidance and let them figure it out. And you can kind of see which leaders are successful by the ones who are able to understand that and just sit back and change how they're approaching, that challenge of leadership.
Definitely. Yeah. And, it's like that's a great thing you brought up there about the company leadership. I just watched one of my former soldiers just took over as first sergeant of a company out in NTC, and to see him grow from when I met him as a young E5 in Kandahar, Afghanistan, to where he is now,
right?
How much he's grown in that time since 2010 to now, and seeing all the lessons he learned and how to do things and what he's applying now and what he's just pushed to the side of what I don't need anymore. It's amazing to see that growth, and I love watching them all grow and do that stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So if someone, a listener, posted a sound adjutants called so we can see if you do that funny walk run. So I don't know if you still know the adjutant call and walk run when you were the adjutant.
Yeah, I got to dodge that. So,
I'm sure it's something that gives you a little twitch if you had to do it, but since you dodged it,
yeah.
Well, you mentioned, we both just talked about one mistake most leaders make when they move around from mission to mission, or company to company, corporation to corporation. What are other mistakes that leaders get wrong on a pretty much a regular basis?
Man, that's a loaded question. There's so much that we could unpack there. Some of the simple. So a lot of it comes down to awareness, right? Just knowing what's actually required of you right now, and just using that awareness to be able to prioritize, do the things that you need to be doing. I look at everything on like a spectrum. So we part of the training. I'm going to pull up a note here, but some of the training that I do, we focus on what I call leader marks, where it's like we have these different variables, and you approach each situation different. So like if I know I need to be communicating clearly right now, right? Do I need to be more open or more reserved in this communication? And depending on what that situation needs, I might need to change how I'm actually showing up. A lot of leaders will, like, I'm sure you have seen, especially for any sergeant majors listening, I'm sorry, but this is for you. They say, all right, I don't have a lot to say. And then they talk and talk and talk, and like they go on, right? Because they want to be able to like share whatever message. But very frequently, that's not actually what's needed in that time. Like it's actually going to probably make the soldiers resent being in those formations more, right? Like doing these things. But it's the same in corporate America. We can even shift to there, right? If you're sitting around at a meeting and someone wants to just keep that meeting going so they can hear their voice, you're like, what? Like, no, please stop. This probably could have been an email. But yeah, so that's like one, just having that awareness. They seem to not have it. A huge one is taking your company culture, right, and thinking that you're not like it's gonna shape itself, right? Not taking like a deliberate action to shape your culture to what you actually want, because that's like the one thing that a leader truly owns in any organization is the culture, because you are the standard bearer for that culture you want to create. And so the hiring, the firing, making sure when someone delivers a task or finishes something that you're actually holding them accountable to what that deliverable is, and being able to say, hey, our team is better than this. This isn't sufficient for us. I think actually being deliberate and knowing that this is something you fully own is something a lot of leaders kind of miss the mark on.
Definitely. I like that you put the team word in there. My team is delivering this. My team is doing that. At our office now, we don't talk about onesies and twosies in our office. It's if all three of us are there, it's the team. And even if we're not there, I was at 100 Liggett. My other two team members were at Fort Campbell and doing great things here. And I refer to them as my team back home is doing this. Yeah. And they were doing the same thing for me for what they were doing on this side. Right. So we never talk about it's always the we. So we've learned that through time and how to get that message across that we are one team. And it doesn't matter what each person does if the whole is doing the mission and getting that deliverable delivered and making what we're doing resonate to those soldiers on the other side of the podium. That's what matters to us. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I'm sure that's something that you get to see as you bring your skills to a corporation and say, hey, look, let's sit down. Let me observe. Do you just go in and observe ever like you would as when taking over a platoon and just be able to observe and then go in and tell them what you think? Yeah, a lot of it's more on the coaching side than consulting right now. But yeah, let's talk. Like, what are your problems? Let me just hear how you talk about your team, right? Like, how are you talking about your problems? How are people interacting here? Because we can learn a lot just by seeing like the dynamics there. We can say, okay, well, maybe you should try this, because my advice for you is going to be different than for someone else, all based off that situation.
And then I have worked with some people going into a new organization. And with that, it's like, take 30 days, right? Just watch, just like pay attention to everything they are doing and then make a decision what you want to change. I think too frequently people step in and they say, okay, I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm going to change everything. It's like, well, at least half that stuff is probably working great. Right. So like, why would you just step in and start changing all this stuff? Better sit back for a bit, see what they're doing, and then go from there.
And that's another lesson I learned as I was growing through the military was, even if I'm coming as I know I'm going to take over a platoon or a squad or this section.
Yep.
I wouldn't even talk for a few days. I'd just sit there and listen to what people are saying and just observe everything. And the platoon that this show is named after, they were already deployed when I got there. So I had to meet them. I met them basically by accident. And it was during an attack I met them. And that's how I learned how they flow and how they do everything. And then I was told I was their platoon sergeant. So it was a totally different dynamic, but I also was able to observe them first and then do it. And we're still very tight.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I would have made the mistake when I took over company command. Like I got pulled aside by the battalion commander ahead of time. He said, hey, this is the weakest company in our battalion. I need you to really pick it up. And so I wanted to go in there and just say, all right, let's change all this. Let's start new, like fresh leadership. Let's go. But I was able to sit back and kind of wait and see. And I realized like, oh, it's not the guys or what they're doing. It was their previous leadership was just garbage. Like the guy didn't actually care about them. He wanted to make a name for himself and often did it at the detriment of everyone else.
Right.
And so it was like, so I didn't need to do anything. I just needed to let that guy go away and then just show up and give my guys what they needed. And everything ran smooth. And so, but I could have probably screwed that one up if I'd gone in guns blazing.
Definitely. Yes. And it's always good that we have that, I guess, the voice of reason to be there to stop you and maybe correct your point of judgment right there. Check your sight aperture and make you go forward. That's perfect. Mm-hmm. That's a perfect lesson. That was a great lesson for you right there, especially to go with that. And it's also helped you move forward in both sides of your career now.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Because you can bring real life leadership. But it could have been a dilemma for a leadership dilemma, and it became an actual success for you to the table for everyone else.
No, and that one was great. One of my first weeks there, the company was doing a PT test. And so I went down to take my PT test with them. They're like, sir, what are you doing? What do you mean? What am I doing? I'm taking a PT test. That's what's on the schedule, right? They're like, we've never had the commander take a PT test with us. It's
wow.
Like, okay, well, now you do. So
we're changing a lot of dynamics here now. So.
Right. But it wasn't hard to step in and shift it. So it was
So we both talked about a little bit about our history. What's one thing that you wish you would have known before you got thrown into that platoon, that your first platoon as a leader or any leadership position?
So this one's controversial. This will be military specific. We got told a lot as like lieutenant in training, right? So I was an infantry officer. And so, your training's a little different and like, you get it. Yeah. Every single leader that came in to talk to us when I was in my officer training course, even back in ROTC, it was listen to your NCOs, everything they say. So I was like, yeah, that makes sense. They've been in for tons of years. Why would I not do that, right? But then I showed up and one of my NCOs was an idiot. And so like, if I had just listened to him openly, right? I guess the lesson is to take into consideration what they're actually saying, heed that advice, because it is going to be generally good advice, but you still have to like actually think through what are they telling you to do? Because this one guy just couldn't, if I had listened to him, like people would have died. Right. Like, and so, we dodged that bullet, like I guess literally. But yeah, I think that's the advice that or probably the bigger lesson, I guess, is that you can't just openly take advice without considering like some of the other variables of it. Right. It is good to listen to your NCOs. They have done it a lot longer than you have. And if you're a 22-year-old lieutenant showing up, you're an idiot if you're not going to take that advice, but you're still the one who has to make that decision. And so make sure you're actually thinking through the advice.
You got to think about the third order effect of that advice. And
Right.
sometimes the 22-year-old, I guess, ambitious leader comes in and wants to take that advice and just go with it and doesn't realize what they just did and doesn't realize what just happened to their career because of that advice, or to a person that could have killed someone just by taking that advice, like you said there. And on the corporate side too, if you go in and you take the advice of the old hat that's been in the corporation for a long time, you should just do this. You don't know if they're just setting you up for failure because they want you to look bad, so you don't move into the position at some point. So it's good to take a step back with a grain of salt and say, "Oh, that's good advice. Let me write that down," and then watch what you do to see what you do, what happens when you do things.
Yeah, exactly.
So as you were starting, I mean, entrepreneurial, when you started the business, was there any, I guess, butterflies in your stomach or anything to say this might not work? I might have to go a different direction, or you were so deep into it, you said this is going to succeed, or 100% success or total failure.
Yeah, that's probably a constant, right? I have a list of rules for life that I use to kind of follow, make sure I'm trying to be someone who lives with integrity and does all the things that I think someone should do if you wanted to, live up to your potential. And one of those rules that I have for myself is to step towards fear. Used to hate public speaking. I was terrified, even doing a safety brief when I was a lieutenant because the commander was out and I had to step in front of the company. Like, I'm with these guys every day, but as soon as I have to step in front of them and start talking, it's like, whoa. But I realized, I'm going to have to keep doing this. So I kept stepping towards that fear to get in front. Now I can talk to people whenever. I can get in front of crowds and it's not a big deal. But yeah, even going into a coaching call for the first time, it's like, am I actually going to be able to deliver something of value, to this person that makes it so they actually want to work with me and they want to go tell their friends about me so they hire me.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely, there is like a nerve, but I kind of lean into the fact that it works. Like what I'm doing, I know it works. I've seen it work. And so as long as I can connect with a person and help them see how to do this, and I can motivate them to actually put everything into play, like, it should work out. And so like, I just got to kind of cross my fingers, do my best. And then hopefully everyone else kind of falls in line with that.
Definitely. I like that you said you used to shy away from the fear, but now you run towards it. So it's like running into the fire. So that's a true leader, the person who will run towards the bullet and run towards the gunshots or run towards the problem at work and make sure they can tackle it and make the team work and get that problem solved instead of sitting back and say, oh man, this isn't going to work. Let me hide behind this desk here while my guys fail and I can blame them later.
Yeah.
In the last 3 years, since when COVID exploded on the world in 2020, a lot of companies had to force themselves to let their employees go remote. And that became a dynamic leadership change for a lot of leaders because now they didn't have their finger on the pulse every day. Yeah. They didn't know exactly what their employees were. They couldn't tap into them as much as they were. Did you see a change in the leadership styles for a lot of these leaders as their workers were working more from home? And what were those challenges?
No, definitely. So the company that I started working with as a marketer when I came off active duty is completely remote, globally remote and stuff. So team members on every country. I don't even think we have anyone in the same state.
Wow.
But I noticed across the world, right? As soon as everyone starts going remote, when they were used to having everybody in office, you start seeing these micromanagerial tendencies start to come out because they were scared. They don't know, even if they weren't in office, constantly checking up and going in, hey, what are you working on? You good? They could have done that. And so having that as safety net, right? I can see people are in the office. I assume they're working because they're here. Now, as soon as they're at home, the assumption is they're not working. And I think a lot more frequently you were getting people who are calling their teams, not to check in on them, but to check up and might have those reversed. Doesn't matter. Interrupt. They were calling to make sure they're still doing their work rather than calling to see if they need anything, to see if they're okay. And that they're still doing whatever they need to in order to show up. And,
exactly.
And I think that was very hard for a lot of leaders during that time. And now it's becoming the norm. And so it's going to, like with everything, everybody's going to shift. They're going to kind of figure out how to work it. And then it'll be good. But yeah, it'll bring its own long-term kind of challenges, which is now, I mean, everybody being remote, how often are you actually getting together with people, real people?
Humans, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's actually one of the huge benefits of being in the reserves for me right now, is that I do all this remote work, but once a month, I at least get to be with soldiers, for 2 days and see everybody actually interact with people face to face.
Hey guys, we're alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you said with the micromanagement. I noticed right away that we were in more meetings. We were doing all these Zoom meetings or Teams meetings all the time that we never did before, even though we're situated around the country in different bases. We never did those meetings until it was a remote thing. And we're gonna have these meetings every day. You're gonna have a meeting today, tomorrow. So I said I don't get anything done when I'm doing all these meetings at all. I said my job is to train soldiers, not to be in meetings. How do we do this? So it slowly went away where they said, okay, these guys are still doing their job. We'll let them just do their job. And we understand they're good. We don't have to do these meetings.
Yeah, that definitely makes it more challenging, right? When they're it's like they just need to have their finger on the pulse, when you could just send it like, hey, I'll let you know if I need something. Otherwise, just trust I got it, right? Like, let me do my thing. You're paying me for this.
I have one job. That's all I got to do. Trust the process.
Yeah.
Here we go. And I think it is eased up a lot now, and they give us a lot more leeway now. That, like you said, it's become the norm now instead of this crazy new hotness that happened in 2020, 2021, when people were still trying to get their hands on that. And now Teams is like on everyone's phone now, so it's not just on the tablet; it's on your phone. You can do it while you're in your car driving, and it's kind of crazy and it's engaging. I think Teams is a pretty good platform to work with, and it's good for a check-in, not for let me see if I can make sure you're doing what I want you to do stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So as far as fluidity, when in the companies now, as they've gone remote, do you see more companies growing now that they're remote, or they're kind of have you seen kind of a 50-50 split between stagnant and growth?
I don't know that it's had much impact. I know a lot of companies have dropped their offices, right? That's overhead that they don't need to maintain anymore. So you can save some money, which means you can pay your team some more money, keep them a little happier, right? Motivate them to be able to stay with you longer.
Right.
Average tenure for a lot of positions is not very long anymore. People will job hop pretty quick, looking for more benefits, a prettier title. Yes. They just, people are chasing that type of stuff. But I think overall for just company growth, the remote aspect probably didn't change as much as everyone probably thought it would, right? I think it came down more to the companies that were growing were the ones who were able to sit back, look at their current strategy, say, what is the market doing? What do we have to shift within how we're doing things and our offers and in how we're delivering our work, and then actually leading with that in order to bring the difference. Because right now we're seeing still tons of layoffs from big companies, and a lot of it was because they took money from, at the start of COVID, they got all these extra funds from the government, and they mismanaged their funds. Yep. And to me, that's a huge it's gonna happen sometimes, right? You're gonna have to lay people off. Sometimes a decision that unintentionally caused other consequences. Sometimes things just get hard. Money gets tight. You can't keep up. But if you hire so many extra people, bet on growth, but you don't start building the systems to be able to ensure you can keep those people, now you're messing with people's livelihood.
Yes.
And that kind of gets at me, where it's, we just hired 7,000 people and we got to let them all go. That's 7,000 people who have to go find another job, who have to go home worrying about where their kids are going to, get their meals. And there's just so many, it's frustrating for me, obviously.
There's a ton of variables that go into that. Like you said,
yeah.
We talked about earlier about the third order effect. When you take that, when everyone took the I don't know what it was called, the performance money from the government for COVID, they didn't think about that third order effect. At some point, it's not going to be there, or you're going to have to pay some of it back, and you're going to have to get rid of somebody that you hired, or maybe get rid of a whole department that you have now. And that's not in your mind when they take it. When they take it, it's like, oh, this is keeping us afloat. This is free money.
Right.
We can do this. And then all of a sudden it's not free money. And you have to do something to make that money right. And sadly, it's not the guy who took the money who gets in trouble. It's the person that's on the lowest level of the rung that usually goes.
Right. And hopefully those people are at least not keeping their bonuses and trying to keep some people in. But
we know
I think there's the other challenge of like the media makes such a big deal about all of these layoffs, right? And then it just keeps popping up because they know people are paying attention now. And so they're going to keep showing this. And so there are some companies who were probably on the fence of whether they needed to get rid of people, but chose to get rid of them during that window because it would just bleed into the news and they wouldn't get noticed as much, right? And so that actually helped some companies say, we can do layoffs and like, let's just do it. And it's, is that the right reason to get rid of people? Like, yeah, we're not mentioning names, so it's
right.
So it's good.
I'm not saying any big names here, but we all witnessed it, and you all you have to do is a search on Google. You can find the names yourselves, and it'll pop up, or you can probably just talk to someone in your immediate circle, and I'm sure it affected someone in your circle at some point, because it affected not just I guess those organizations that had big contracts with government, and it affected all corporations this time. And so it wasn't just this pool or this pool; it was all pools that got affected. And leadership has to be involved with those decisions to understand the third order effects.
Yep, definitely.
So, if there's anything you would change that you did in your before even making the decision to go military, would you change that and just go straight to marketing and then to where you do in leadership now? Or do you think that basis of military science and then leadership as a platoon leader up to where you are now, leading troops, has helped you become that dynamic leader that you couldn't even do without that?
Yeah, I needed everything to happen the way it happened. Like I needed my first sergeant yelling at me when I was a platoon leader. Right. I needed a sergeant major pulling me into his office when I was a company commander, being like, what are you doing? It's those were necessary. And in order for me to just keep learning and growing. And then even going into marketing, like I don't believe I could have just left the military and gone right into leadership consulting and had the same impact, because I didn't have, like, a lot of people try to do it, but it's like you don't necessarily have an understanding of the business world. Right, and how everything works, how the insides of a startup actually function, because it is not like the military. It is probably the furthest thing from it. And so being able to kind of understand how all of that works, but also look at, how do I build a brand? How do I tell stories, right, in order to get someone to consider working with us? And then I've worked with a lot of sales teams through that. And so, like, how are they handling objections? How are they talking to people? And I got to see kind of some similarities even there with, you know, like I had one NCO who he hated to walk. He would find any way that we didn't have to walk. So like if there were birds available, right, we're flying. We're not, there's no rucking. And so before I would pitch any op order, I would say, I've already checked, there's no birds. It's like I handled his objection before he had a chance to bring it up. Right. And so, like, it was a sales tactic. I was getting him to buy in on my plan because using that. But like I needed those lessons to now be able to actually deliver value to the people that I'm working with. So I have all these lessons. I have these stories. I know what didn't work for me, and it might work for you, but I'm at least going to tell you what I did wrong so that you can hopefully use that and take, similar to the advice of listening to all your NCOs, right? Take my advice and put it to play for yourself and see if it works.
Definitely. And I think the more advice you get and the more people mentoring you, you can pick and choose parts of everything they give you. Everything that someone has taught me, all my leaders taught me at least one thing that I kept with me, some a lot more. And there's some that taught me things I don't want to do. And just by the way they were, I didn't want to do their things. So I wrote down, and said, don't be like this guy. Don't be like this guy.
Right.
Be like this one. And this is the one you want to be. And these are the top 10 things. Like, you have the list of things that you go through, your rules to live by. I had a whole bunch of things I wrote down, my guide to success. I even wrote a book about it to try to keep myself grounded and have rules of life and get forward. So all that everyone's advice. It goes in your head, but like you said earlier, there's some you just gotta throw in that third can there, the E file for excess, and let it go and let it get put out on Wednesday with the garbage truck.
Right.
So I'm sure you had a lot of that, and you're still probably getting a lot of that. But now you're able to, now you can tell when someone's giving you horrible advice, and that's a great thing you're telling me. I'll really look into that, and I'll see you later.
Right. Well, a lot of it comes down to like just asking, do they have context on my life? Right. Like, do they actually know what I'm going through right now? Or are they just offering it unsolicited and hoping I follow? Because generally, once someone has that context, they're going to change, what they're actually offering you for advice. I say, oh, you've actually already tried these things. Like, well, then, don't listen to me. Yeah.
It's hard to let them understand if they don't know anything. If they really know anything about you, sometimes people just give you advice without having any knowledge of who you are or where you've come from. So that's why I asked you earlier, do you go and actually just sit and watch or listen to what they say? And that's the best. I think that's the best approach. Like you said, you sit there and you ask them those questions. What is working? What do you think is not working? And how do you think I should tackle this? And you come up with that plan to help them out. I think that's the perfect business model.
Yeah. One of the fun exercise I would recommend any leader does is go ask 3 questions, to anyone who's following you. Say, what am I doing now that I should continue? Right. So like they'll give you some things that they think are great. What am I doing now that I should stop? And then what am I not doing that I should start?
Right.
And just with those 3 questions, you can get some really great insights from the people that you're leading. And then actually, take it back, do an after action review on yourself, like over whatever period, and figure out, okay, this is what my team is saying they would, they need from me, or they would like me to continue doing. Let me make sure I'm actually doing these things.
Right. That's a home run right there. If you get everything, all those ducks in a row and do that, it's a home run, and you'll be successful. And you'll find out that the better you are like that with those you lead, the better they will perform, and they'll respect you more that way. And you'll probably keep them around a little bit. Like you said, right now we're in a culture where job hopping is probably kind of like riding a bike. Everyone has to do it now. Most veterans only stay at their first job a year, and that's just a sad statistic, but it's the truth because, like we talked about earlier, not everything is military centric. It's not going to be the same, especially the longer you stayed in. The longer you stayed in, the harder it is to adjust to that first job, and then you have to really, while you're in that first job, really ask yourself, do I want to be here? And then I have to find this next job so I'm happy and I don't just sit here and twiddle my thumbs because I'm just doing too much when I don't need to be.
Yeah. A lot of times, something the military does really well, right? So we come in and we all have a similar set of values, right? There's the Army values. We literally put it up. You learn it at basic training. I can go into any unit in the Army, and I know they will generally have those same values. The unit culture might shift a bit depending on how they do things,
right,
and stuff. But like, I can form a relationship with anyone and just connect with them, right? Like that's why it doesn't matter what race you are, what gender, any of this other stuff. Like, you can show up and you're on the same page. When you go into corporate America, most companies don't have a clear set of values that everyone in the company agrees with and follows. It's really important if you show up and that is a thing, right? The values of the company don't align with your personal values. You do need to jump, because something's going to happen where if the group says this is how we do things, but it doesn't line up with you feeling good about how they do things, now you're challenging the integrity of the organization as well as your own. And that reputation of losing integrity is going to follow you to other places, even if the values actually didn't jive, right? So like, you could go to another organization where their values are perfectly matched for yours, but people are going to remember that at a different company, they didn't like you there because you didn't get along with everybody. Like and you can say, well, it's because their values didn't line up. But if it got to the point where like you got fired or people were getting angry at each other and you had to leave there, it's almost too far down. And so you should pay a lot of attention, when reading through the company values, asking the interviews what are your values? How do those show up in day-to-day business? And if you can get start getting a feel for that, you might find like, hey, I can actually find a company that I want to work with longer. Yeah, there might be some better benefits somewhere else. There might be, a cool title somewhere else. But like, if I'm happy here because it actually feels good to work here, I'm going to stay longer. And so,
I want to wake up and go to this job.
Right.
I'm going to stay there. So
yep.
I don't want to just lay in bed and hope that there's some kind of bad storm so I don't have to go to work or something. Or my computer will turn on and I don't have to look at emails. So I'm happy. But yeah, that's everyone thrives for that happy spot or Maslow's hierarchy of needs that people look for in life, and you have to meet those. And a title doesn't give that to you. Benefits don't give that to you. You being able to stand up and be happy every day and be kind of motivated to get up and do that stuff is way more important.
Yep.
So, Chris, we talked about a lot of stuff tonight.
Yeah.
And very quickly too. So, if you can give advice to that young leader coming up, or even that person who thinks he's an established leader, things they can do differently now to make their environment better, what would that be?
There's so much advice that could fit, but I have to be really careful now because we talked about the dangers of giving advice without context.
There you go.
So something that has always been beneficial for me and something that I love passing down to anyone who has worked with me is get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Like you're only suffering until you apply meaning to that suffering, right? That 25-mile foot march, it sucks. Nobody wants to be on it. But when you realize you're training so that when you hit the battlefield, you can do that and still show up and fight, it's like now there's meaning, right? Like I have purpose here. And it's the same with everything else you're doing at work. Yeah, I hate having to go through X, Y, and Z in my schedule. Like it's just, I'm miserable all the time. But when you actually apply the meaning to it and you realize that it's actually making you better and it's setting you up for success later, you're going to start stepping towards those things. You're going to step towards the fear and you're going to find your growth rate just exponentially, taking off because you're going to be putting yourself in situations that other people don't want to be in. And so everybody else is seeing that. You're going to you're showing your potential and your promise. And you're just going to be able to achieve way more than them in the long run.
Definitely great advice right there. And what's the best way for someone to get in contact with you to either just chat with you like we are, or to even hire you to come into their company and help them out?
So if you go to leadingforeffect.com, you can form on there depending on what you want to do, whether you want me for some speaking engagements, you want some coaching, or we can do like seminars, workshops, anything. We got tons of different training that we can offer. If you want to just connect on a personal level, LinkedIn, easiest place to find me, just Christopher Dubois. And happy to talk to anyone about leadership and jump on and chat. We can do podcasts and anything like that.
Awesome. Chris, thanks again for making it on tonight. I was in traffic there a little bit and got here a few minutes late, but it was awesome to have you on here and learn a little bit about your journey and a lot about your leadership style and what you're bringing to the table now. So it's been, again, great chatting with you tonight. I wish you nothing but the success in both of your hats you're wearing now. So
yeah, awesome. Thank you. I very much appreciate the invitation, Rich. And maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Awesome. Definitely. Just reach out to me. We'll do it again.
Awesome.
Thank you. So don't forget to pour a little out for Command Sergeant Major Paul Barton tonight and all his those who he mentored, of course, his family, his wife, and all those that he has led throughout his life. Till Valhalla, Sergeant Major Barton. We'll see you on the other side, brother. Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com to catch up on all of our episodes and also to get some of that great Misfit Nation gear. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are